Hello, miladies of inestimable value. Some women collect shoes. Sigma females collect dimensions of themselves that no one's ever met. They don't just exist, they engineer their reality. They don't follow hobbies for social points. No. Sigma females choose activities that bend the mind, sharpen the soul, and protect their inner empire like a fortress under lockdown. While others chase hobbies to feel busy, she chases hobbies that build psychological weaponry, and sometimes just to quietly flex on mediocrity. And here's a cold fact most don't realize. A recent study on solitary high-achieving women found they're more likely to pursue unorthodox hobbies, ones that activate both the brain's creative and logical centers simultaneously. Why? Because they're wired differently, and Sigma females, they were born off the grid. She doesn't knit sweaters, she knits escape plans, she doesn't garden, she cultivates silence that grows louder than applause. So if you think this is a list of yoga and journaling, prepare to be delightfully disappointed. We're diving into 12 brutally unique, shockingly satisfying hobbies that only Sigma females truly vibe with. The kind of pastimes that make the world wonder, who is this woman and how is she so unfazed? Buckle up. We're entering the mind of the lone wolf in heels. Number 1. Designing their own philosophy of life. Sigma females don't just accept life the way it's handed to them. They question everything, especially the rules that most people blindly follow. While others live by borrowed beliefs from parents, religion, school, or society, a Sigma female takes a hard look at all of it and asks, does this actually work for me? And if it doesn't, she tosses it out without blinking. She's not afraid to start from zero. In fact, she prefers it. She spends time thinking deeply about what life actually means to her. What's right? What's wrong? What's worth her time? What's not? And instead of Googling answers or following a trend, she writes her own rules. She builds a personal code, a philosophy that's not based on popularity, but on truth. Her truth. What makes sense to her, not the crowd. And this isn't just some deep thought she has once a year, it's something she constantly works on. She'll test ideas. She'll try living one way and then completely flip it the next week, just to see what feels more real. One day, she may swear by discipline, the next by surrender. But the key is, it's always her call. She never hands over the steering wheel of her life to someone else's idea of success, love, or happiness. That's why she doesn't fit into neat categories. She can't be boxed into one mindset or movement. She's not fully spiritual, but not materialistic either. Not a rule breaker, but definitely not a rule follower. She just builds her own lane and keeps it moving. If she outgrows an idea or belief, she doesn't hold on for nostalgia's sake. She lets it go. Fast. That's why being around her can be intimidating. She's not confused or trying to find herself. She knows who she is because she built that woman from scratch. To a Sigma female, blindly following is a form of self-betrayal. So she questions, she edits, she rebuilds. Her life philosophy is her armor, her compass, and her silent rebellion all in one. It's not about being different for the sake of it. It's about being real in a world addicted to pretending. Number 2. Reverse engineering what makes people tick. She doesn't just listen to what people say, she listens to what they really mean. Every pause, every deflection, every fake laugh, every change in tone, she catches it all. While most people are busy reacting, the Sigma female is mentally rewinding the conversation, decoding the emotional blueprint behind it. She watches how people move, what they avoid, what makes them flinch. She sees the lie wrapped in a compliment. She hears the insecurity behind the brag. She notices the avoidance in the silence. For her, people are like encrypted files. And her brain? A built-in decryption software that never turns off. She's not doing it to judge anyone. She's simply wired to go beneath the surface. To her, surface-level behavior is just noise. She wants the source code, the emotional patterns, childhood wounds, secret motives, and unconscious fears. It's like a mental game of chess she's always playing, silently and effortlessly. You won't even know she's doing it. She could be laughing with you, nodding politely, and still be several layers deep into figuring out why you need validation so badly, or why you never maintain eye contact when you speak. She's not trying to manipulate. She has no interest in using your patterns against you. She's trying to understand the human machine. It fascinates her. Why people say one thing but do another. Why they sabotage their own happiness. why they follow crowds when their soul is screaming for freedom. She breaks people down the way someone might disassemble a watch, not to break it but to see how it works. It's also her defense mechanism. By understanding how people tick, she protects herself. She doesn't want to be blindsided by hidden agendas or fake connections. So she studies people like a quiet analyst, collecting data, not drama. And once she figures you out, there's no going back. You're either safe or silently written off. Number 3, redesigning their physical space like a fortress. To a Sigma female, her space isn't just where she lives, it's where she reloads. Every object, every color, every sound in that space has a job to do. She doesn't decorate to impress guests. She designs to protect her peace. Her home is less about aesthetics and more about psychological survival. When she walks through her front door, she doesn't want to feel like she's entering a showroom. She wants to feel like she's stepping into her own private universe, sealed off from the noise, nonsense, and expectations of the outside world. There are no random items lying around. If it's there, it has a purpose. Maybe that chair in the corner is the one she collapses into when she's mentally fried. Maybe that low light isn't just moody lighting, it's how she manages sensory overload. That one scent she always has burning, it's not for guests. It's a mental anchor that tells her body it's safe to let go. And the silence? That's not emptiness, it's protection. She knows how color affects mood, how clutter affects focus, and how sound affects nervous system regulation. She's studied it, not from some trendy home decor blog, but through deep self-awareness. She's tested what calms her, what fuels her creativity, what gives her clarity. She builds her space around that feedback. Every shelf, texture, or piece of art is chosen like a weapon in an emotional toolkit. If she lets you into her space, she's not just showing you her home, she's showing you her blueprint for mental freedom. Her space is her way of saying, out there I adapt, in here I reign. And if something or someone starts disrupting the energy inside that fortress, she'll remove it faster than you can ask where the bathroom is. She doesn't chase peace in people. She builds it into the walls she lives in. Number 4, obsessing over the concept of freedom. To the Sigma female, freedom isn't just a goal, it's an obsession. And not the Instagram kind filled with sunsets and passport stamps. She's chasing the kind of freedom that most people don't even know exists. The freedom to wake up and not owe her time, energy, or emotions to anyone she doesn't choose. The freedom to say no without guilt. The freedom to disappear for a week and not have to explain why. That's her currency. She doesn't just want physical independence, she wants to own her mind. To think what she wants, feel what she wants, and live how she wants without being emotionally hijacked by trends, people, or pressure. That's why she reads about van life. Not because she wants to live in a van, but because she's curious about how others escape the matrix. She'll dig into the lives of people who retired early, people who went off-grid, people who created passive income, because their stories are roadmaps, not entertainment. She's constantly looking for ways to reclaim her time and energy. She's not into busy schedules or performative ambition. She wants freedom of attention. She wants to be able to spend an entire afternoon deep in thought, or take a walk with no phone and no agenda. And if something, even a relationship, job, or habit, starts to feel like a cage, she will quietly begin building her exit. No drama, no announcement, just strategy. She's hyper-aware of how systems, labels, and expectations try to trap people. So she doesn't attach herself to anything that feels like ownership, titles, roles, or even group identities. That's why people often think she's hard to read. She is. She made herself that way, so no one can find her buttons and push them. What makes most people feel secure makes her feel suffocated. Predictable routines, fixed plans, dependency, they all feel like walls closing in. She doesn't just want choices. She wants the power to choose without compromise. That's why she lives life like she's constantly scanning for exits. Not because she's running away, but because she refuses to be trapped. Number 5, learning obscure, useless skills just to break the pattern. For the Sigma female, learning isn't about usefulness. It's about liberation. She doesn't study obscure skills because she wants to show off at parties or build a resume. In fact, she usually doesn't tell anyone what she's learning. That's not the point. The point is that every strange, seemingly pointless skill she picks up is her way of shattering the script the world tries to force on her. Society says, learn this, get that, follow the path. She says, no thanks, I'll study how to pick a lock instead. She might spend weeks decoding Morse code just to understand how people used to communicate under pressure, or she'll learn the basics of disappearing off the grid, not because she's planning to vanish, but because knowing how to vanish makes her feel untouchable. She's not preparing for the apocalypse. She's preparing to be unowned. And it's not always dark or intense. Sometimes she'll dive into a dead language, a forgotten ritual, or an abandoned system of thought. Not for clout, for mental rebellion. It resets her brain. It reminds her that she's not stuck in this current reality, this algorithm-fed, content-saturated, productivity-obsessed society. There's more out there. There's always more. That's why people who try to predict or control her always fail. Just when you think she's one thing, she shows up with a skill no one saw coming. She breaks her own patterns before the world can trap her in them. The learning itself becomes an act of defiance, a reminder that her curiosity doesn't need permission and her intelligence can't be domesticated. To others, it might look like she's wasting time. To her, it's mental alchemy. She's not collecting hobbies. She's collecting back doors out of mental cages. Because once you start learning things that have no practical value, no societal reward, and no status attached, that's when you know you're truly free. Number 6, creating alternative realities in their mind. Sigma females don't just think, they construct. Inside their minds, they build entire worlds no one else can access. While others daydream to escape boredom, she crafts inner realities to expand possibility. It's not about wishful thinking. It's a deliberate, sharp-edged process. She imagines different versions of herself, different timelines, different outcomes, then quietly aligns her actions to match the one that feels most powerful. She's not escaping life. She's rewriting it from the inside out. In public, she plays a role, quiet, composed, unassuming. But in her mind, she's already 10 moves ahead, living out a reality that's bigger, bolder, and cleaner than the one handed to her. She's built mental rooms where she rehearses conversations, maps reactions, pre-plans exits, or reinvents her entire identity without anyone noticing. She trains herself in private, how to stay calm under pressure, how to respond to betrayal, how to walk away without looking back. This internal world becomes a lab. She tests new attitudes. She edits her boundaries. She experiments with versions of herself the world isn't ready for. Not because she's delusional, but because she refuses to be limited by what's currently real. If the current system, relationship, or environment feels too small, she mentally steps out of it and starts building something else. Eventually, her outer life catches up. People might think she's detached. She is, but not in the way they assume. She's not zoning out. She's zoning into a deeper, richer version of life where mediocrity can't reach her. It's how she survives the shallowness, the noise, the obligations that try to shrink her. She doesn't argue with reality. She upgrades it silently, from within. This is why she never seems fully controlled by her environment. No matter how rigid the structure around her, she carries a secret weapon, an entire mental universe where she's already free, already powerful, already whole. And once you learn how to live from that place, the world can never cage you again. Number 7, rebuilding their identity. From scratch. Reinvention isn't some temporary glow-up for the Sigma female. It's a way of life. She doesn't wait for a crisis to change. She chooses to regularly step back and ask herself, is who I've become still who I want to be? And if the answer is no, she doesn't panic. She starts tearing it all down, her personality, her routines, her beliefs, even her sense of purpose. Nothing is safe from her scrutiny. She treats herself like an ongoing project, never finished, always under silent reconstruction. While others desperately cling to labels, mother, wife, artist, career woman, she lets go of identities the moment they stop serving her. Not because she's lost, but because she refuses to be trapped by outdated versions of herself. She doesn't romanticize the past. She doesn't perform the present. She watches herself closely, and if something no longer fits, an idea, a habit, a value system, she strips it away with surgical precision. This is not about trends or aesthetics. She's not following a self-help routine or mimicking influencers on social media. Her identity rebuild is internal, raw, and often uncomfortable. She questions everything she was taught. Was that belief really hers, or was it inherited? Is she choosing her values, or just running on autopilot? When most people avoid this level of introspection because it's too painful or too uncertain, the Sigma female dives straight in. She wants the truth, even if it burns. This is why people often misread her. One day she seems this way, the next she's evolved again. She doesn't owe anyone consistency, especially not at the expense of her growth. She reinvents quietly, almost invisibly, until one day she's no longer the woman people thought they knew, and she's perfectly fine with that. To her, staying the same just to make others comfortable is the real identity crisis. Rebuilding isn't a breakdown, it's a form of rebirth. And she'll do it over and over again, not because she's unstable, but because she's unshakably committed to becoming the most refined, honest, and unedited version of herself, no matter how many versions it takes. Number 8. Studying human nature like a silent psychologist. Sigma females aren't antisocial, they're just anti-surface level. While most people talk to connect, she observes to understand. She's fascinated by the silent language people speak without even realizing it. A twitch of the eye, a change in tone, the way someone interrupts or avoids a topic. These aren't just random moments to her, they're clues. She collects them like a detective building a psychological profile, but she doesn't do it to manipulate. She does it because she's addicted to truth, and human nature in all its raw, messy honesty is her favorite subject. She can sit in a coffee shop for hours, earbuds in, music off, watching people. Not judging, just reading. The couple arguing at the table next to her? She's not interested in the drama. She's analyzing who's trying to control the narrative, who's people-pleasing, who's emotionally checked out but still pretending to care. She can sense resentment hidden under politeness, insecurity disguised as confidence, attraction masked as indifference. Even online, she's studying. She'll scroll through hundreds of comments on a viral post, not for entertainment, but to analyze how people react under digital anonymity. Who needs to be right? Who projects? Who deflects? Who leads the herd? She notices which kinds of comments trigger defensiveness, and which ones get ignored completely. It's not just scrolling, it's data collection. She watches how power moves in conversations. Who dominates with silence, who submits with laughter, who lies with a smile. It's all part of a never-ending study she's running in her head. She may never say it out loud, but her internal notes are razor sharp. And the scariest part? You'll never know she's doing it. She doesn't talk much about these observations because most people wouldn't get it. They'd think she's overthinking, but she's not, she's seeing. Her quiet nature is not emptiness, it's awareness. She's not trying to be liked. She's trying to understand what people are made of. And once she does, she knows exactly who to trust, who to avoid, and who's wearing a mask they forgot how to take off. Number 9. Writing to expose their shadow. When a Sigma female writes, it's not to be cute or inspirational. She's not crafting pastel-colored affirmations or jotting down daily highlights. She writes to purge, to confront the parts of herself that most people spend their whole lives denying. She digs into the mess, the bitterness, the jealousy, the quiet rage, the shameful cravings for power or revenge, things she would never say out loud, things that would make people uncomfortable. But on paper, she sets it all free. Her journal isn't a safe space, it's a surgical table. Every entry is an unflinching autopsy of her mind. She writes down things like, I wanted to ghost them because I felt trapped, or I pretended not to care, but I was dying for their attention. She admits when she manipulates, when she fantasizes about revenge, when she secretly enjoys being underestimated. It's not about being nice, it's about being real. She knows if she doesn't face her shadow, it will control her from the dark. So instead of running from it, she grabs a pen and meets it head on, not to judge herself, but to understand the parts of her that society tells women to hide. The selfishness, the ambition, the lust, the anger. She writes like she's in a confession booth with no priest, just truth and ink. This process is brutal. Some entries leave her emotionally wrecked, others feel like freedom. But she never edits, she never prettifies. She doesn't care how it sounds. That raw, unfiltered honesty is the point. It's how she stays sane in a world full of performance and denial. And no, no one gets to read it. Not her best friend, not a therapist, not a future partner. Those pages are sacred. Because while everyone else is busy curating their identity for public approval, she's behind closed doors dissecting hers, flawed, complex, and unmasked. Writing isn't therapy for her, it's warfare, a battle with her own ego, a ritual of self-stripping, because only by exposing her shadow can she truly own her power. Number 10. Deliberate boredom to reboot their brain. While most people sprint away from boredom like it's a disease, the Sigma female walks straight into it on purpose. She knows that in a world addicted to stimulation, boredom is a luxury, a secret weapon, a psychological reset. So she builds it into her life deliberately. Not because she has nothing to do, but because she understands that real clarity only arrives when the noise dies down. She'll sit in a room with no music, no screen, no podcast, just silence. She'll take long, aimless walks without her phone, just her feet, and the sound of her thoughts catching up. Sometimes she'll literally just stare at a wall, letting her mind dissolve into stillness until the restlessness passes. Most would call it wasting time. She calls it debugging her brain. This isn't laziness or burnout, it's strategy. Her mind is like a processor that's constantly running deep-level analysis on people, on patterns, on her own identity. But even the sharpest systems need downtime. And for her, boredom is not a glitch. It's maintenance mode. That's when the most unexpected insights show up, when she's not chasing them. While others drown in distraction, she lets boredom break her open. The discomfort forces her to face what she's been avoiding. Sometimes it's a truth she didn't want to admit. Sometimes it's an idea she didn't know she needed. Either way, the emptiness becomes a clearing, a mental breath. And the more she practices it, the more addicted she becomes. Not to the boredom itself, but to what comes after. Mental power unclouded by noise. She's not afraid of the void. She sits with it, watches it, and lets it recalibrate her nervous system. And when she rises from that silence, she's sharper, more grounded, and often 5 steps ahead of everyone still chasing dopamine. In a world built on speed, she uses stillness to hack time, and while the rest of the world scrolls endlessly for stimulation, she finds power in doing absolutely nothing. Number 11. Doing nothing perfectly. For the Sigma female, doing nothing isn't a waste of time. It's sacred. It's not laziness, avoidance, or lack of ambition. It's her quiet rebellion against a world obsessed with constant motion. She doesn't chase the high of productivity just to feel valid. She doesn't need to be busy to prove she's worthy. When she sits in stillness, it's not because she has nothing to do, it's because she knows everything is being processed in the background. To an outsider, she might look like she's zoning out, laying on the couch, staring into space, maybe sipping tea and watching the sky change color. But inside, her mind is running like a supercomputer, not in a frantic way, but in deep, quiet cycles. She's reviewing past conversations, untangling emotions, testing decisions, re-evaluating values, silently pruning what no longer fits her mental framework. This is the kind of stillness most people run from because it forces them to feel. But the Sigma female walks straight into it. She's not afraid of her own company. She doesn't need distractions to be okay. In fact, she craves the moments where she can be alone with her thoughts, uninterrupted, unfiltered, and unhurried. This kind of pause isn't passive, it's strategic. It's the space between inhale and exhale where real insight lands. It's when she gets her best ideas, not because she was grinding for them, but because she created enough quiet for them to arrive. That's why, after these still moments, she often makes massive life changes with calm certainty, changes others would agonize over for months. She's already processed it all in the silence. Doing nothing, for her, is an art form. It's how she stays rooted when life tries to shake her. It's how she knows when to pivot before others even notice the wind shifting. And it's why, when she finally moves again, her steps are sharp, intentional, and unshakable because they came from stillness, not noise. Number 12. Studying the fall of ideals. Sigma females are not fascinated by what's trending. They're fascinated by what used to trend, and why it collapsed. While others are busy chasing the next big ideology, she's quietly studying how yesterday's absolute truths unraveled. She's the kind of person who'll spend a week researching how an empire crumbled, not because she's into history, but because she wants to understand how people let go of what they once worshipped. Her obsession isn't just with events. It's with the mental detachment from once sacred ideas. She studies the arc of beliefs, how a religion can shape entire civilizations and then slowly lose its grip, how political ideologies go from revolutionary to corrupted, how cultures cling to myths, then abandon them when reality bites. These aren't just historical stories to her. They're warning signs, human case studies, and mind maps of collective psychology. While the world jumps on new belief systems like fashion trends, she's asking, how long until this one dies too? She's not cynical. She's clear-eyed. She understands that belief systems are often built not on truth but on emotional comfort, fear, or power. And because she's emotionally self-sufficient, she doesn't need an external narrative to feel safe. That's why she can look at even her own values and say, this might not last. She welcomes the death of illusions. She expects it. In fact, she studies it because she wants to make sure she's not clinging to something just because it's familiar. This is what makes her mentally dangerous in a world that thrives on emotional attachment to ideas. You can't manipulate her with dogma. You can't guilt-trip her with tradition. You can't box her into a political or spiritual category and expect her to stay there. She watches the rise and fall of collective thinking like a hawk, quietly tracking the cracks in the foundations while everyone else is still cheering. For her, truth isn't found in what survives. Truth is found in watching what can't. And by studying how entire civilizations outgrew their illusions, she sharpens her ability to outgrow her own. Not because she's faithless, but because she refuses to be owned by any belief that hasn't survived her full internal interrogation. She doesn't follow hobbies, she crafts dimensions. The Sigma female isn't interested in killing time. She's interested in resurrecting herself through it. Every so-called hobby is a ritual, a strategy, a deliberate rebellion against shallow living. While the world scrolls, consumes, and conforms, she dissects ideologies, rewires her mental architecture, studies discomfort like a master, and builds inner empires brick by brick. To the untrained eye, it might look like she's just journaling, just daydreaming, just reading something weird, but under the surface, she's hacking the system. She's fine-tuning her inner software while everyone else runs on autopilot. This isn't about being quirky or different for the sake of it. This is about survival on her terms, about never being owned, by trends, by illusions, or by fear. Her hobbies are the sacred scaffolding of a life lived consciously. Nothing she does is random. Every action is a message to the universe that says, I'm not here to fit in. I'm here to wake up. So while others laugh at her cold showers, dismiss her obsession with freedom, or can't understand why she spends hours in silence, she smiles quietly. Because they don't realize she's becoming untouchable, unbreakable, uncaged. And maybe, just maybe, that was the point all along. If this stirred something deep within you, don't just click away like it was another video in the background. Like it to show you're part of the 1% who thinks deeper. Comment below with your favorite part or share your own Sigma-style habit. We actually read what you write. Share this video with someone who lives life on their own terms or someone who needs to. And most importantly, subscribe to the channel if you're done with noise and ready for depth. We're building a tribe of thinkers, lone wolves and game changers, and trust me, you belong here.